Career changes and balancing creativity. Those two things don't seem to go hand in hand, and yet far more many of us are doing it on the routine nowadays than we'd like to probably statistically acknowledge is true. What can you do to keep your well at overflow status when you're in the process of managing one career that's winding down, all while laying the foundation of another career that's starting to wind up? Take it from a former teacher. Let's do this. Hello there, everybody. My name is Jenna O'Malley. I am your soul writer, author of sci-fi fantasy with dashes of romance and nerdy references. Alongside the raw healing stories my characters do weave throughout time and space in the Myrna Annals and related tales such as Vitae Elangica. I, once upon a time, taught high school English in the panhandle counties of, well, the eastern panhandle counties of West Virginia. Because if you didn't know, West Virginia has two. And I very much do not regret, but do regret delaying my writing career and going into a career that was far more temporary than I ever thought it was. So for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. And some of you are like, I didn't know she used to teach high school, but now she makes more sense. Yes, yes, yes. Prior to 2020, I taught high school English, developmental reading and writing, and largely wrote curricula and taught creative writing as part of my journey. Many students at several high schools that I either taught at personally or wrote curricula for would graduate at the end of their X number of years they were there. If they did at least 3 of their 4 years studying one of the 4 levels of the creative writing course, they walked away with a certificate saying that, hey, they basically have completed all the basics to have this extra tack on, and it would get them an elective at the college level for writing. Hello, Drina. Come on in. Now, since it was creative writing, it would usually be like a creative writing 101 class, not like a technical writing, business writing, or freshman comp class, because you got to trade out like for like in the university world, and that's only fair. Hello, baby girl. Hello, my girl. You're not going to let me pick you up, and I'm not going to fight picking you up. I'm just going to pet you. So that, I think, did prepare me in many ways to become who I am and am in the process of coming, honestly. So therefore, what advice do I have to give? Yeah, I did this video a while back, but I noticed it's been a hot minute. I tend to go back and repeat certain topics about changing careers and getting skin stickers, aka tattoos, every couple years, and we're probably due on what is it like now. So I am still in the process of pivoting, we'll put it that way. I do sometimes have to work a day job, but I'm finding more and more and more and more I have more confidence letting my creative life be what guides me. Now, it's been a huge mindset change. Mind you, I probably would have become a writer professionally at a much younger age if my parents weren't of the... My parents did not graduate high school themselves. I did not come from money. My parents knew by the time I came along that I needed to study and be involved and educated more so than other women that were in their generation were. Mind you, my mom is one of 3 girls out of 8 kids. And my dad only has 1 baby sister. So they all kind of agreed that, you know, she's the youngest and only girl out of 5 kids. She has 4 older brothers. She's probably isn't going to necessarily go down the same path as her brothers. Yet I don't mind changing oil or installing a set of steps. Let me say that, Dad. Thank you very much. My mother's love of reading instilled most into me. Now, I don't know how much of it was my mother's encouragement. Also came along right in time for a certain Disney animated movie in the early 90s that features someone I still admire today named Belle. I thought I was going to teach until I retired in my 60s or 70s. Nope. Life had bigger plans. So what are some ways that I've learned are actually part of the healthy mindset change that it is taking for me to be the writer I always wanted to be in the long run. So this is where I am going to be super nerdy more so than ever and say, you know, Shakespeare isn't the only one who's allowed to call himself the bard. I may not be the bard, but I am a bard, and I'm pretty good at what I do. And there's a certain alchemy and magic that comes to looking at writing from the perspective that we are bards of our era, and that usually it is through the painted words and the other use of mediums of art to capture what's really going on in the world at any given time in history being applied here. It kind of makes us almost like architects or maybe enchanters or mystics in that kind of level of recording what's going on right around us. And for me, when I accepted that I was doing my career change when I was doing my career change, and it wasn't just for my own benefit, that there were going to be ripples, that's when the career change accelerated. A lot of people, when we go through career changes, a lot of people in our lives may call us horrible things like selfish, self-centered, especially if you're like me, and for the longest time, you are the primary steady income source in the home. And of course, you got to be logical about it. I'm not saying don't be logical, you know, make sure you dot your T's, cross your I's, and vice versa on that statement as far as your bills go. Make sure you can still survive for you and your family applies. It might take you longer, therefore, than others. I call my childlessness is at this point becoming a choice. But it was one that was kind of thrust upon me to make. And I am quite aware that if I had a kid, my life would be way different. It would have taken way longer to career change. So don't compare, therefore, number two, how your muse shows up, because you're kind of changing your reality, which is ultimately by ripple effects changing your environment. Yes, I think that's why I have moved so many times since 2022. If you look back, this is the fourth place I've lived in 6 years. Mind you, the only other time that happened was when I was in college. My parents didn't move much by the time I came around. I was very fortunate in that because I came later in my parents' lives, they moved once when I was 8, and that was it. My mom still lives in the house I grew up in. And very much so, no, you know, that was her final move. So for me to move as many times as I did, it was very much, the last couple years have been very much like my college years, and that energy of I'm moving every, 9 to 18 months. And my environment had to change because I changed so much mentally in this career pivot. One of the things I had to come to terms with was that I was very, very, very replaceable. And for someone much more affordable to the schools I was working at. To give you some context, I have one full complete master's degree in secondary education. I have a second one that basically says that I do the whole teaching people reading to write special ed thing really well. And I'm now working on a business master's. You might as well say, because I've taken so many marketing classes and management classes. It's like, I kind of am overqualified to be a K-12 teacher. It very, very much the training. Now, mind you, a lot of the reasons why I have the second master's degree was for recertification credits as a teacher at the master's level. So why not get a second master's slowly over 15 plus years is what I ended up doing. And then when I career pivoted, I noticed, wait a minute, I basically am, between all the classes I'm taking to be an author, might as well say I'm studying a publishing career in a way. Kind of like a master's self-study. It felt very similar to what I did for my research credits. So the more I learned and the more I had to come up against my inner shadow, go see the video I just did on shadow work, inner critic, and so on. If you missed it, thank you for the very, very well received share and watch on that, by the way, everyone. I adore you. And for those who did see it, but if you didn't, go grab it, because it kind of plays into this part here of you are what you eat. You are the environment you live in. You really, self-awareness begins with self-parenting in that regard. And I know, watching my brothers and go through their 40s and 50s at 20 years younger than them, that, you know, that is a learned skill for some people more than others, because definitely all 5 of my siblings and I arrived at that point at different times in our lives. And I had the benefit of watching all of them go through it as being on the bottom of the pile and the youngest, so that's the only reason why I went faster was, you know, collapse 5 people total, me being observational in learning through my brothers. So what are you doing to put yourself into environments that allows you not necessarily to learn and grow through osmosis, but like somehow some fish grow to match the size of your tank? Dude, you're no longer in the pond. You're probably more like in a stream or a creek or a grotto by now, okay? Let's get real. Some of you are not accepting that maybe you are trying to make an impact from a perspective that is inside of a body of water that does not benefit anything outside of that small body of water. Maybe this is the time where instead of being the mountain stream, maybe you're all of the streams coming down the side of the mountain leading into falling into the creeks that eventually build into rivers. Can't you tell I grew up around the Chesapeake Bay? Because that's the image I have right now is Wills and Everett's creeks up around LaVale, Maryland and Cumberland, Maryland, eventually trickling their way down into the Potomac, which eventually dumps into the Chesapeake Bay. It's very much, you might have moved into a larger body of water and don't even notice, you know, that yet. So maybe the simple change to getting that environment is rotating your desk 90 degrees. I tried it for a weekend and I moved it back. One, this is prettier for you all to look at than a blank wall with a calendar and right now what looks like crazy scientific doctor plotting sketch notes from brain dumping stuff. But I also realized that being able to look out the original reason why I put the desk here, there's windows right on the other side of my computer, and maybe instead of moving my desk 90 degrees, I just need to move my desk over enough that it's easier to do this and look out the window. Or maybe I need to be more diligent about making better use of my house. It is getting to be spring cleaning. It's time to get rid of the clutter that ain't no longer serving you, so says the chick who probably needs to redo her backdrop. Again. So therefore, establish your inner sanctum and your outer sanctum to be what they are. This is a conversation that Sam Wicker and Mama Maggie Ward were kind of having over on Breaking the Block about there's a vast difference in what we all do to get. I keep hitting the keyboard. I'm so sorry. As far as what we do to get writing, you know, Sam said mine is as simple as I get something to drink and I sit down. I can do that for some projects, depending on where I left off in the project can apply, or for some characters. However, increasingly I am noticing that I'm back to giving myself work cues that used to be effective, stopped being effective, and I put them down for a while, so now, like, they're unfamiliar again. So I started putting on, and I actually need a new pair, my sneakers that I would normally go teach in. I started putting them on when I would stream again. That has helped my energy in stream so much. I've also started writing in them on occasion. That too has helped. So it can be something very, very tiny. Maybe another thing, this is another thing I notice I've been doing. I have these pair of rings that I was wearing all the time. I'm currently struggling with some swelling issues from carpal tunnel, unfortunately. Not my PCOS. This is definitely because it's my whole wrist up. It's definitely, you know, carpal tunnel constricted. And I can feel the tightness in there. But because of that, I can't wear my 2 favorite rings every day because they just, you know, I'm kind of, they tight, they hurt. So Another thing I've been doing, like yesterday for Double Down Day for heart breathings at the beginning of March, I went and did a cold water soak on my hands in the sink for like 2 minutes. Just as the sink was filling up in the bathroom, slightly colder than room temperature water. It's not really ice cold, but cold water. Let it run over my hands, and then I submerged my hands and, just did an anti-swelling kind of soak. Was able to get my rings on. And that cued something in my brain to the tune that I wrote 5,000 plus words for the first time on a Double Down Day in a while without hurting too much. I noticed toward the end of the day I was tiring out, so it doesn't even have to be like an outer sanctum thing like putting on shoes, cleaning up an area, having a designated office, or even signaling yourself with turning on a candle. It can be something as simple as the process in which you meditatively wash your hands or put on a piece of jewelry, or maybe you spend, this is why Tracy the Revised Writer, when she would do her 2-minute pre-plan before doing a longer sprint, it can sometimes be helpful to give yourself, if they work, those little, red light, green light, go moments in your day. So what kind of strategic management are you putting for leveraging not just your time investment then, but what are you also doing to give yourself goalposts on financials? I am going to be the last person to tell you that you should stop writing what you're writing. I will most likely say maybe it needs tweaked, or maybe you need a break from it. Now, let's get real. We know that a lot of stories are both successful and not successful when they are produced slightly ahead of their time. So that could literally be it. Allow for that to go. But this is why I say allow your career change to be what it needs to be to keep you financially stable, to match your time investments. Some of us only have the ability to invest time into our business. We don't always have the same financial stability foundations as others, and I felt that hardcore. This is why I do lean into pre-made covers as my first run of my covers. And then as a book does well, I'll upgrade it into more of a custom cover. This is why I am very grateful I have my bachelor's degree and all of my training in teaching other people how to write, because it does save me a little bit of money when I send it to an editor myself sometimes, or I don't rely on other programs that would cost me money. You can find ways to start this career pivot without having the money there, because sometimes the money investment won't come to you until the universe, the divine, God, Nephthys, Morrigan, Mary, Bridget, I don't care what you call the greater power beyond. I mentioned my favorite 4 ladies, and, they very much told me, girlfriend, we got to see what you're doing with your time around this first. Are you making room for this in your schedule? When I started doing that, and room for me, that's when it started becoming a little bit more, I don't need to work the day job so hard. Yeah, I started trickling in $1 here a month, $10 there a month on my books. Yeah, my membership on my YouTube channel, a couple months a year is a check here, a check there. It has been a slow build. Now, as a lover of slow burn romance myself, so I gotta admit, I'm okay with my creative life and I slowly romanticizing each other, so that way I can kind of master the long game. We see it very often, how someone goes viral and then you never hear about them 3 years later. That doesn't happen just in bookland, let's get real. It happens here, it happens everywhere. All over the different niches, industries, whatever. And it's very much worth it all the more for you to take time enjoying building the foundation that becomes the bridge, allowing you to pivot out of your day job into being what pays for your free time to write to the other way around. Very much so. Your words matter. And you know how I feel about word wizards and them showing up to join the party when they were meant to show up and join the party. Gandalf says what he says to Frodo for a reason, after all, does he not? And therefore all the more. Your words do matter. They are said, they are written, they are published in their pace, in their time, in their stride. And I encourage you to honor The fact that you've already made leaps and bounds, even if you're the only person clapping and cheering yourself on. You've got me there at least, too. All my hugs. See you soon.